everyone, it's Kimber, the study abroad specialist. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 4 perfect locations around the world for fall study abroad programs. So before we dive into the video, I just want to let you know about a freebie for you that I have in the description. So if you click down, you're going to see a link to my eGuide, Finding Your Perfect Study Abroad program. This eGuide has helped hundreds of students be able to navigate the beginning part of study abroad, where you are just looking for a program. You're trying to figure out, what type of program do I want to look for? How can I decide between the pros and cons? And just helps to narrow down your decision about what type of program might be the best for you. So definitely check that out. It is completely free. It's printable as well. And I definitely want you to be able to get a hold of that. So when it comes to fall study abroad, I just love talking about fall and autumn in general. It is one of my favorite seasons. It is a fresh start after the summertime. You are still not done with the year, but you're heading towards the end of the year. So that's even more of a fresh start. And of course, as we know, in the educational space specifically, it is the beginning of semesters and quarters and new degree programs, or working towards finishing up degree programs. And so a lot of people get really excited about the fall time, the fall semesters. And particularly with study abroad, I have done videos in the past on my channel. I will link one above, where I was talking about how fall study abroad programs are often underrated, but you can get so much value out of them if you take advantage of doing them. So I'm so excited that you are here to learn about fall semester programs and to potentially enroll in one. So we're going to start out by talking about Switzerland and why it is a great place to spend a fall semester doing study abroad. So with Switzerland, Switzerland is such a special place. It is one of my favorite places. I would say that particularly Lucerne, it ranks up there with London. It might be a close second, which I know is a bit controversial if you've been on my channel, particularly in the wintertime. It just looks like a little snow globe. If you go there in winter, you will see what I mean. But I've been to many parts of Switzerland, and it is just a really special place. I love the culture of it. I love that people are a little bit more laid back, but that they are really invested into their culture. I love the fact that there's so much to kind of see and do outside. So particularly if you are someone who you like to do more traditional travel tours, or if you're someone that you like to do old-fashioned hiking or whatever, there's so much to see. And even for people who are not the most outdoorsy, like I would not consider myself to be an outdoorsy person, but I have enjoyed a lot of time in Switzerland, of getting to walk around and see things. The air is so fresh there. And so for a fall study abroad program, you would really enjoy it, I believe, because one of the main things is that, let's start out with talking about the weather. So as we know, in the fall, depending on where you are, things may go from warm to a little bit chilly, or they may go from already chilly to cold right away, or they may just still be warm. For example, if you are on the west coast of the United States, you know that we have Indian summer, and so that lasts for a very long time, whereas there are some other parts of the United States or other parts of the world where they have a traditional fall. Really are going to get a chance to experience that classic fall that you would see sort of in movies or on the pictures that are in the frame, right? It's a lot of places, like, for example, I know here in the US on the eastern seaboard, places like Connecticut and Massachusetts, places like that, that have a true traditional fall. You're going to find Vermont, that's another place, Maine, places like that. You're going to find that type of weather in Switzerland during the fall. It's still not very cold, so things haven't transitioned yet, but they have that crisp fall air, and everything about it just feels very fall-like. So if you are someone who really enjoys that, I think that you alone, just for the weather, you're going to really have a lot of fun with that, because there are other places, for example, in Europe and other parts of the world, where it is still transitioning out of summer. You're not going to get really a lot of that fall weather until way in the fall. So it could be not until maybe November, December. And so with the weather in Switzerland, you're going to find that around September, October, you're already hitting that classic fall weather. So I know for a lot of students that I've worked with in the past that they absolutely love that. Another thing as well is that it is going to be a lot cheaper if you are staying in Switzerland. Now, Switzerland is not a cheap place, so I want to put that out there if you don't already know that. It's quite expensive. But if you're interested in traveling to other places, as most students are while they're studying abroad, then it's going to be a lot cheaper to get to other places really quickly. So you could take a quick flight over to the UK or to Italy or to somewhere else. And it's going to be cheaper because, again, with that time frame, and since Switzerland is pretty centrally located, you can get to a lot of places really cheaply because you are in off-peak time. So a lot of students love to do that. The other thing too is that there is so much sort of unspoken culture in Switzerland. I think when a lot of people think of places around the world, they don't necessarily hold up their hand and say Switzerland is the most cultured, but there is a lot of unique culture that is in Switzerland, and a lot of that comes out during the fall time. So for example, they have a lot of smaller festivals. They have a lot of different shops. I know that in particularly during the Christmas season, they have so many. They are known for their pop-up Christmas shops everywhere. But even throughout other times of the year, during sort of the October time, there's so much going on. And so there is a lot of local culture, no matter what city you're in, that you can get involved with, that is just a part of something that you could not experience throughout a different part of time if you studied abroad in the spring or in the summer. And so I think that you will really, really enjoy that. Whether or not you think that you would want to do a fall study abroad semester in Switzerland, I would highly recommend at least researching it more. And there's so many places that you can go. I know that a lot of people obviously think of Zurich as kind of the main place, but you could do Bern, you could do Interlaken, you could obviously do Lucerne. There's so many other places. Geneva obviously is a huge one as well, but no matter where you go, you're going to get a different experience. And again, I feel like with the unspoken culture, that's something that is really surprising to a lot of people, because people just don't necessarily think of Switzerland in that way. I don't really know like what the general consensus is on Switzerland. I know for myself, I didn't really think that much about the culture as much. But when I got there and I spent time there, I was just so surprised at how there's so much unique culture. And of course, every place has that. But I think with Switzerland, a place like that, that it is so diverse in a lot of ways in terms of the different regions and what people have to offer. But you have to really kind of be there to experience that. You're not going to get that in other ways, because a lot of the Swiss culture is not exported to other parts of the world, right, compared to American culture or British culture. So you really have to be there to experience that. So I would highly recommend that. And I must just say, just as a point here, if you are someone who likes to travel by rail, or if it's something that you think you might want to do, that you are going to be in for a treat. I have been saying this for years and I cannot get enough of it, that their rail system in particular is just, it's bar none excellent. 5 stars, maybe even 6 stars. I mean, I love a good tube ride on the London Tube, but you can't even compare. Like, it literally feels like you're riding on a stick of butter when you are on Swiss rail. It is amazing. And they're so efficient as well. Like, I love how because in some places they don't do this when they have rail, like they will come around and check the tickets, they verify everything, and they make sure that everyone's in every car they need to be in. It's just a great experience. I cannot say enough about that, but particularly just like the actual ride. You know how some places that you go, and even, for example, Amtrak is not anything to sneeze at, but it's not the best. It's not how it used to be. But when you're riding a lot of times on the tracks, if you've ever done this, or any other place that you may have been on trains, and you can feel like every single bump, or you can feel like, you cannot feel that on Swiss rail. Like, it is so smooth. It's next level. It is definitely a model for the rest of the world, or what they should be doing for railway. So I'm a huge cheerleader for them. This is not sponsored. I just love their railway system. And I hope that you get a chance to experience that, whether you are traveling in the fall or anytime for your study abroad program, but definitely check that out as well. It's going to be a great experience for you. So the next place that is worth spending a fall study abroad semester would be Japan. Again, similarly to Switzerland, you're going to get some of that integration of nice fall weather, but it's still a little bit warm depending on where you are exactly. But again, you have the ability to skip ahead in the line in terms of there's not going to be as many tourists as there would have been during the busier parts of the year. And as well, there are a lot of opportunities for immersion missions. So I know that a lot of students, quite a few students that I've worked with and students that I have known, they will, when they go to Japan to study abroad, and they, for the most part, have done fall programs, they jump straight into, let's say, an internship, or they may be able to combine, let's say, doing their studies with some volunteer work. In a lot of other places, you're not going to be able to find that. Another thing, too, with the type of visas that you get is that you have the ability to do that. So it's a lot more flexible than a lot of the other visas around the world for students. So people get a chance to sort of do a half and half if you want to, although for most students, they're going to be studying full time. But if you want to jump in and do some immersion work or do some extra work on the side, you're going to be able to do that within the field that you're interested in. And a lot of times, as I've talked about in the past, since people are competing so heavily for the spring and summer positions, it may be a lot more competitive than you would find in a fall semester. The other thing as well is that even though Japan is a much more homogenous culture, they are very welcoming. So this is something that I've heard time and time again. I have not made it to Japan yet. I hope to go there very, very soon. But that they're very welcoming and that they make you feel as if you're a part of the culture and don't necessarily make people feel as if maybe they don't know something, or maybe they don't know how to pronounce something, that they are outsiders. I do know that I've heard rave reviews of how students really feel that way. And particularly, I think during the fall, it's much more special because you're a part of a smaller group of students that are studying abroad. And so you really get to immerse yourself in the culture in a way that you may not get to do in the spring and the summer as much, because there's many more students everywhere. There's a lot more hosted programs from schools here from the US or schools from the UK that have programming that takes place in the spring or the summer. So there's a little bit more of an audience for different things that are happening in the spring and the summer that don't necessarily happen in the fall. So I feel that it kind of goes into that category of you're definitely going to be in the minority of being less students around. And so you may get the chance to get more opportunities, which is always great. So definitely consider Japan. And similarly to Japan and Switzerland, they're both a little bit cheaper. Usually the programs are slightly cheaper, although as I mentioned before, Switzerland is not that cheap. But both Switzerland and Japan tend to be cheaper in the fall, as you will find with most programs. Even if your particular tuition is not cheaper, then just kind of the excursions that you do or other things that you may participate in are cheaper because it's off-peak time. So for number 3, we are, I know it's going to surprise you, it's not London, it's not the UK, we're talking about France. So France is a great place to spend a fall semester. It is one of the most popular locations that students are always interested in going for the fall. And I think there's a variety of that. I feel like definitely the weather, it does sell itself. When I lived in London, I would pop over to France and particularly Paris quite a bit. And during the fall, you get a real classic fall, where sometimes in London, although I love it dearly, it does feel a little bit more like you get a lot of that, what we call here in the US in parts, the Indian summer, where it's like sometimes you don't feel fall come in until about November. And you're like, I just want to put on my cute jacket and my boots and walk around. And in Paris and in other parts of France, you definitely can do that much more early on. One of the reasons why it's so great to be there during the fall as well is that obviously we know that France has so much culture, but particularly during the fall time, you get to see a lot more of that. So they have many more exhibits and art showcases and different things that are happening between the August and December period. There's also, if you are someone who loves fashion, Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week typically takes place, I think it's in September, October every year. And so that's quite cool because again, that's an event that really encapsulates the entire city if you're in Paris. And I know people from other places come there as well. And so it really turns into like more of a wider scale event that you can get involved with other little things that are centered around Fashion Week. So that's always really exciting for a lot of students. I think also too, very similar to what I was talking about with Switzerland, is that it's very easy and very affordable to get to a lot of different places from using the Paris Railway. They have a great rail system as well, but it's really easy to hop on a train and get somewhere and here and there a lot more affordably. One of the other things too that I know that a lot of the students that I've worked with who have studied in Paris, particularly, or in France in general, particularly during the fall semester, have talked about is that the housing tends to be a little bit cheaper. And one of the things that a lot of students will do, depending on what type of program they're doing, if you're just doing a semester program, this may not be as relevant to you. But if you are starting out and doing, let's say you're on your second year of your degree program, if you get in and you're able to get into a place in the fall, it's a lot easier to lock in a certain rate. Whereas in the summer or even the springtime, things are going to be a lot more expensive for you. And so that definitely makes sense, because as people begin to travel and people are moving in and out, things become more expensive. It does happen. But in the fall time, things just tend to be a little bit more affordable for students. And so I would highly recommend, whether it be Lyon, or if you're going to go to Cannes, or wherever you want to go, it doesn't just have to be Paris. I know that as I'm doing this series talking about different places that are not kind of the main marquee place that everyone knows, I will definitely get to France as well, covering that. But it is a great place to be for a fall semester. There are a lot of other places around the world that I feel that you could be, but you wouldn't necessarily get the authentic fall experience in terms of the autumn weather and the autumn fashion and whatever is interesting to you, that a place like France is going to be great for that for a fall semester. Last but not least, I actually wanted to mix it up a little bit. So the last place on the list for a perfect fall semester program is going to be Spain. So you're like, Spain, that's interesting. Yeah, Spain is a wonderful place as well. I would say that number one, this is going to give you a chance to actually extend your summer, because Spain is one of those places where they don't tend to dip into the autumn weather until October or November. So again, if you're getting there, let's say in September, it's still going to be quite warm, maybe not as hot as it would have been in June or July, but you still are able to extend your summertime and have a good time. The other thing too is that, very similarly to some of the other places I mentioned, that even though we know that Spain has a lot of culture, but they tend to encapsulate that a lot better during the fall months. So while you're there for your fall semester, you will again see a lot of the smaller festivals and exhibits that happen. I know that for a lot of places around the world, the fall time is a good time to do that. I think that it's thought about because in the beginning part of the year, people are just kind of coming off of Christmas, and there may be some things in the spring that happen. And then in the summertime, obviously people are traveling. And so fall is a good time to do that. So whether it be for small businesses that are exhibiting different things at showcases, or even if it's just soaking up local cultural things, you're going to really get a chance to be involved in that. And if you've watched my other video where I talked about how fall is underrated but has so much value, you will know that I mentioned those pieces as an important part of being able to really get a sense of the local culture. And no matter where you go and you study abroad, you're going to have a chance to do that, particularly if you study abroad in the fall. But I know that for Spain and for Spanish culture, that is something that's really important. I often like to, even though I know they're not the same, I like to compare them to Italian culture, because things are about togetherness and being together and everyone kind of coming together to share these long meals and people getting together and gathering. You're going to find a lot of that in Spain. And so I think that you will really enjoy that if you are looking to get some classic immersion. And of course, this is an opportunity for you to be able to work on your language skills, to be able to figure out what else you want to do. Maybe you want to volunteer. There's so much going on. But I feel like in the fall, as I've always said, you are at the advantage if you are studying abroad anywhere, because there are overall less people who study abroad in the fall, and you're going to be able to sort of ingratiate yourself in a way that you would not be able to do that in the spring or the summer, when there are much more people from all over the place, everywhere, competing for the internships and to be able to talk to this person and do this and do that. So I would highly recommend that you consider Spain, any part of Spain, for a fall study abroad if you are looking to extend your summer, but also have some fall opportunities as well. So I hope this video was helpful for you. I know that a lot of students, when they are first getting started with study abroad, they're like, their first question is not only where should I go, but when should I go? Should I do fall, summer, spring? Should I just do the entire year? So that's why I like to put videos like this out, to be able to help you at least get some ideas, so that as you're going through and doing your research, you can be like, like I heard about that and that may be interesting to me. And I don't just want you kind of walking around out there in the dark, not kind of knowing what's going on. And so it's important to have these discussions. So I hope that this was helpful for you. If you are planning to study abroad in the fall, or you're looking at fall programs, where are you planning to go? I want to hear in the comments where you might consider going and why you want to go there. As you know, I am all about the why for study abroad. I love talking about that. And so I want to hear why you want to study abroad, where you're going, and what you hope on doing while you're there. What are your goals while you're there? Also, as well, since you're here, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You're definitely going to want to get the notification so that you know when I release new videos. I release new videos every single Friday, and sometimes on Wednesdays and Thursdays as well. So please definitely subscribe. Please like the video, and please share the video with someone else that you know that wants to study abroad. I will see you again very soon.